Welcome back to the Baird Retirement Management Show. We're continuing our Get to Know Your Advisor series by asking Scott Bartosh some questions about himself and his work on the team. As you already know, Scott is a certified financial planner and is a director with the Ashcroft Pesek Bartosh Group. Scott has worked as a financial advisor for over a decade. But on to the things you most likely don't know. And unlike when I did this same interview with my brother, I'm sure I will be learning a lot of new things about you alongside the audience. Let's get into it. So the first question, Scott, is what do you enjoy doing in your free time?
So you mean in addition to this, right? Because during the day, I'm a nuclear engineer. No, I'm kidding. It's funny. It kind of changes from year to year. It seems like lately, I got married 3 years ago, and I really enjoy spending time with my family, my wife's family, and a lot of that revolves around sports. We are big sports people, former sports players who are now mostly sports watchers. So anything to do with the Astros, there's a little bit of a family rivalry, frankly, because Kaysen's family tends to lean towards the University of Texas. My parents both went to Texas A&M. I went to Tulane, but did briefly attend A&M. So I'm a T-shirt fan, at least, of Texas A&M. So that causes a little bit of friction. But yeah, we really enjoy going out with friends, doing stuff surrounding sports. We are both avid bayou and dog walkers. We live pretty close to the bayou. So in about 5 minutes, we can get down there, take the dogs out. There's a dog park within walking distance. So
nice. Would you say you're more of a baseball fan or a football fan?
When I was younger, it was 100% baseball. But I think to a degree, I've been spoiled by the Astros' success. And like many people, I tend to get into it a little bit more later in the season now.
Yeah.
Although I hate to admit that.
So does that make you a Texans fan?
Yeah, I like the Texans. I'm a little late to the party on that.
So are the Texans.
That's true. When I was a very young kid, I went to a lot of games at the Astrodome for the Astros. Never went to an Oilers game growing up, but nominally thought of myself as an Oilers fan. So Houston sports all the way, although I must admit, I'm from San Antonio, so the Spurs and their championship runs with Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, also very close to my heart.
There's a lot of good Texas teams.
There are.
Honestly. Especially this day. I mean, I guess baseball didn't pan out as well as we would hope this season, but...
Not this season, but it's been a remarkable 7-8 years for the Astros, so...
Definitely.
It's been tons of fun.
For sure. All right. Well, moving on to our next topic. It's not dissimilar in that this would also be something you do in your free time, but when it comes to your favorite book or your favorite movie, you can choose one of each or either or. What would you say?
I thought about this one for a while, and I was struggling. I feel like if we go more the things you read in English class, I'm a pretty big Hemingway fan, so wow. I'd probably go with A Farewell to Arms. I think that would be my pick.
Okay.
I kind of like those moody, war-related books, some kind of stories from...
Lighthearted.
Yeah, very lighthearted stuff, like World Wars. All Quiet on the Western Front, maybe something like that. So maybe that says something about me. I'm not sure, but I read these war books. But that was a good one. I'd say favorite movie, I'm going to just go kind of classic and say Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones.
Classic.
80s movie, before my time kind of, but one of my favorites for sure.
That's a classic.
Anything that's action, adventures, and maybe a John Williams soundtrack, I'm into it. Jurassic Park.
Nice. Jurassic Park's also a classic.
Yeah, honestly. It certainly is.
All right. Would you say that you are more of a morning person or a night owl?
I, unlike your brother, at least I'm guessing, I do lean more to the night owl side of things.
How late is late for you?
Weeknight late or
Give me both.
Late?
Give me weeknight and weekend.
Yeah, I'd say weeknight late is after 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Greg's waking up, He's starting his day.
He's hitting the gym. Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like if you can't see the first 30 minutes of the late show or the, whatever they call those nowadays, like you're probably going to bed a little too early.
I mean, between the two of you, there's one of you awake almost every hour of the day.
We could advertise that.
We should advertise that. Consider this the advertisement for that.
Okay. So that, yeah. So yeah. And I'd say on the weekend, like, hey, if there's something fun going on, midnight.
Yeah. Man, that is late. I mean, again, speaking as a morning person, it's rare that I see 10 o'clock these days. So, but again, to each their own. If you weren't a financial advisor, what career would you have pursued?
This is really interesting because I feel like this kind of, it changed for me over time where I was very into music growing up. And so kind of my first thought on a job, like when I was in high school, was maybe I would be a music teacher or something like that. So I could have pursued music in some way, probably in an educational route. The one place where I maybe at times have not regrets, but just thoughts on, what could have been was I'm an analytical thinker. I like to really dive deeply into stuff. So I think I probably could have been an engineer. I think I would have been decent at it.
Definitely.
And it's a whole nother world. And I get a little bit of exposure to it, getting to work with ExxonMobil retirees for the most part. But sometimes I wonder if that had been my focus, where would I have ended up?
I guess maybe they're not so different, but music and engineer, they seem different on the surface. Did you play any instruments?
Yeah, I did. I didn't know we were going to talk about this kind of thing.
Well,
but yeah, I played the tuba in the high school band. And if we're going there, I was actually also in a drum corps, if anyone has ever heard of that. And I played the bass bugle. So that's like a big tuba type thing you put on your shoulder.
Let's do one more personal question, then we'll switch gears and we'll talk a little bit more about your career and your role as an advisor on the team. But who would you say has been the biggest influence in your life? And this can be personally or professionally.
Yeah, I would say that the biggest influence on my life, probably not surprising, is my dad. He has been, he is the person that as a little kid, a little boy, you're definitely going to look up to. But I think that at every step of the way, as I was growing up, regardless of what he was doing or where he was doing it, we moved a couple times. I was born in kind of the Bryan College Station area, lived in Austin for a while, San Antonio for a while. Each different stop, it was just so clear that he was doing everything he could to give us the best possible life, and that he was carrying himself in a way in a world where you can sometimes get ahead by doing things that are not particularly scrupulous or maybe the best idea in the moment. I just feel like he always carried himself in such a moral and a disciplined, structured fashion. And if I can get some of that discipline, structure, morality into my life and the things that I do, that is certainly a positive for me.
I think you definitely have. So the impact is clear.
Well, great. Successful dad.
Yeah. So switching to our advisor-related questions, what inspired you to be a financial advisor?
Wolf of Wall Street.
Obviously.
No. Yeah, obviously. I mean,
Same.
Leo DiCaprio, I mean, that's what I got to do. No, I would say, interestingly, when I first kind of started to do business in college, I kind of thought I was probably a better fit for accounting. And so I took a couple of accounting classes, and I was pretty good at it, but I didn't necessarily love it. And as I kind of went a little further into school and I got exposed to some of the classes where really the first class where part of the grade was a simulated trading program. We're looking at these companies. We're trying to come up with our valuations of them based on PE ratios and their earnings, price to book, these types of things, trying to determine what are the things to buy, to sell short potentially, because it's a a pretty aggressive platform. There's no actual dollars involved. So getting exposure to that, I realized, wow, I really enjoy the financial markets, the movement, trying to determine if there's a value to be created or achieved in looking at some of these investments. That got me to start maybe being interested in the industry. And then my senior year at Tulane, there's a program called Birkenroads where they really give you an opportunity to do a very, very deep dive into the numbers and the details of a company that they follow. And it's really just like a semester of being an analyst at a big firm on Wall Street. And that also piqued my interest and was really interesting.
Would you say it was easier to be aggressive when it was not real money?
Oh, yeah. I've never shorted anything in my life, and in that class I certainly did. So it's a lot easier to bet on a company's demise when, if it succeeds, it doesn't really matter to you.
I'm sure. Speaking of kind of trends or making bets, how do you stay current with the latest things happening in the financial world?
Well, so there's a few different things that I try to absorb on a daily basis. I read the Wall Street Journal pretty frequently to just kind of get an idea of maybe what are the things that are going to move the market today. Is it conflict in the Middle East? Is it something in Ukraine? Is it an oil supply shock? Something like that. Interest rates moving. That's usually a good source to get that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then on a little bit more micro level, I think Baird and Strategas do just a great job of giving us lots of good data. I mean, Baird sells their research. It's probably very expensive, but I don't have to pay for it. It's one of the perks of working here. So, reading through the Baird data, where they will kind of give you their thoughts on hundreds of companies. And it's not necessarily just like the big tech names. It's, you can dig pretty deep, and the Baird analysts might have an opinion on a stock that you own or that you've been following. So that's probably the main places: Strategas, Wall Street Journal, and Baird's internal research.
And given that you work mostly with retirees, how much does what's happening in the world really affect your strategy?
It doesn't on a day-to-day basis. But to me, to talk to somebody about what we're trying to accomplish over a decade, you have to relate it to what's happening in the world today. Because if every time you talk to a client, you say, well, we set up the 10-year plan, just go with it. You have to empathize and understand that it's scary when interest rates or when inflation started to crop up in 2021. That was maybe the scariest thing that I've seen in the last 5 years. COVID was very worrisome. But the thing that impacts the people I work with is, this is the amount of money I have to live the rest of my life. If those dollars are now worth significantly less than they were 3 weeks ago, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
And so I just think staying up to date on the current it's important, even if it doesn't change the long-term plan. It also can give you suggestions on, not everything you have in a portfolio you're going to want to hold for the rest of your life. Some things in there may have a 2 or 3 year runway, as an example. And so if we're following the day-to-day, we're seeing the signs that maybe that 2-year idea is about to come to its end.
What would you say is the biggest financial mistake you've seen people make, and how can it be avoided?
I'd say the biggest mistake that I have not personal experience with, but I've seen other people do, is really early in life just get, you could say, addicted to credit card spending, where whether it's truly a credit card or maybe just moving debt from one place to another, like debt consolidation, and then open a new credit card, and you're always kind of living beyond your means. I think that is a really difficult situation to be in, especially in a world now where the vast majority of people need student loans, to get through college. So if you have debt outside of the student loans that you already need to be paying off, how are you going to make a dent in that unless you just suddenly start making a whole lot more money.
Yeah.
So I think, living outside of your means, especially early in life as you enter adulthood, that's one that can be really tough to get out of.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we're going to do 2 more questions before we wrap up for today. Second to last question would be, how would you describe your approach to helping clients prepare for retirement?
I would say the start of the approach is that I want you as the client to know that this is basically all I do. Is I begin talking to people somewhere between a year and 5 years from retirement, and I think of myself as the shepherd, so to speak, where I take you from thinking about retiring, seriously thinking about retiring, maybe ordering the paperwork, and then separating from service. You are only going to do this one time, where you stop working for a company and then enter a phase of life where you're not going to have an income anymore. There's stuff to think about. Where do I get money if I retire before 59 and a half? Where do I sell something in my 401k? Do I buy something outside of the 401k? Those are all difficult decisions. What are the tax ramifications of those things? We have looked at those questions hundreds of times. And so I think to start the process, I want you as the client to know we've solved this problem 200 or 300 or 400 times, and you are extremely important. Your situation is unique, but we have so much experience solving your particular problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, again, you really do specialize. So when you meet with clients, you have had those conversations really hundreds of times. And granted that they're iterations of the conversation, but I know when I've seen you do what you do, it's definitely a well-oiled machine in terms of your knowledge of the information and a true subject matter expert for sure.
Well, I think that's what we certainly try to be.
Yeah.
And we're so far from perfect, like in terms of predictions or prognostications. I try to not do too much of that, but reading the temperature of what's going on in the world and then just making the best choices that we can. I want you to know as a person who looks at this every day that I'm extremely invested in getting good results for the people we work with. When occasionally something happens in the market and somebody makes an irrational decision and I can't maybe prevent that from happening and it goes through and I think it's a mistake, that, it impacts us where we want the best for you. It's not just a fiduciary relationship because the SEC or the FINRA says so. It's important to us that people are successful.
Yeah. So our final question, this is one that was off the cuff from Greg's interview because we spent some time talking about the utility of money and what it actually, is worth spending money on. So in the last year, is there anything that you've spent $100 or less on that has moved the needle for you?
Yeah. So this is not one thing that I've spent, say $90 on and it provided me some great benefit. But over the last couple of years, I kind of realized that I'm a pretty routine-oriented person. And I found myself kind of having the same thing for lunch pretty frequently.
Okay.
And what I've found over the last couple of years, going to the same restaurant a lot, is that it can be financially beneficial to become a regular and really be friends with the people who work at a restaurant. I'm not going to name drop just because I don't know what our sponsorship situation is, but I go to get the same salad almost every day. And talking to the people at that restaurant who know me by name, and they probably think I'm a lunatic for the amount that I eat at this restaurant, but I enjoy checking on them. And I enjoy just talking to them about what's going on in their lives. Like, one of the managers has a daughter that's about to enter high school, and so I get little updates on her life.
Nice.
Or somebody new starts, and I talk to them like I own the restaurant to a degree. And they kind of have these wide eyes, and they don't really know what's going on. And the people are like, just wait, you'll get to know this guy eventually. And so in the long run, just that consistency with kind of a silly habit kind of just produce something that you wouldn't have expected.
Yeah.
And I also get free lunch a lot.
I mean, I think that's honestly a hack right there. Now, you said that you go to the same salad place every day, and I agree we shouldn't reveal your trade secrets, but do you get the same salad every day? 9 times out of 10. Should we talk about the salad? Would you like to tell us your favorite salad toppings?
I feel like it's kind of so growing up, this is probably getting a little bit out there, guys. Growing up, my family would kind of go on and off of low carb diets.
Nice.
And so I kind of that's historically what
very
I
trendy.
Do. Like, if I want to try to eat a little better, I do low carb. And so basically it is a salad that has lots of greens and some meat and some cheese and some egg, and
no
it
carbs.
Seems like it fits into a low carb lifestyle.
It definitely does.
That's how I came up with it. Whether or not it works, I'm not sure.
I think it's working. All right. Well, that will conclude our Q&A for today, but we might do a part 2. I think people are going to want to know more. There might be more salad secrets to be revealed in the future. But to everyone listening, thank you. And you can find our podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. This broadcast contains the current opinions of the hosts and are subject to change. The broadcast is provided for informational purposes only and should not be considered investment advice or recommendations. Investors should obtain professional advice before making investment decisions. This is not a complete analysis of every material fact regarding any company, industry, or security. The information has been obtained from sources we consider to be reliable but cannot guarantee their accuracy. For more information about any companies discussed, please contact Baird. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and diversification does not ensure a profit or protect against loss. All investments carry some level of risk, including loss of principal. An investment cannot be made directly in an index. This broadcast may not be reproduced without express permission of Robert W. Baird & Co., Incorporated.